Welcome back to your live continuing Toy Fair 2015 official coverage with the Toy Industry Association on BeTerrific. I'm Michael Artis. We're broadcasting live from the Jacob K. Javits Center in New York City. Thanks so much for watching. We're so excited about this. I want to tell you there's several ways to connect with us. First, you can go into our IRC chat. You go to BeTerrific.com/live. You watch the video player. Go underneath the video player and go to the IRC chat. You can log in anonymously if you want, or you can create a login so we know who you are in the future when you come back. Also, you can connect with us on Twitter and Instagram at BeTerrificTV. And of course, you can email us, connect@beterrific.com. Wherever you're watching, wherever you're watching, however you're watching, thank you so much for watching. We have a lot of great syndication partners, including GeekBeat and Planet 5D. So I want to thank them. And of course, you can download our app and take us on the go, app.beterrific.com. It is free for iPhone, Android, and Kindle. Our next guest is an amazing gentleman. He has got so many great stories. I'm so excited for this. Richard Levy is here. Film, television, and toys. Oh my God, you've done it all.
And publishing.
And publishing.
But who's counting?
Who's counting? Well, we are. We got to know. We got to tell the audience. So it's really, truly amazing. So first, let's start with your story. You get into film, right?
Yes.
And you're a major player in film, and you're producing films, and you're.
Well, now you're getting ahead. Wait.
Yeah.
I was a summer intern with Paramount Pictures in Spain before I graduated college.
And so that just seemed like probably the coolest job you could do at the time.
That was the greatest. I was stationed in Madrid, Spain, and they were making feature films on the outskirts of Spain. Paramount had a studio out there, and I was there for like 3 months, and it was wonderful.
That's some summer vacation as a college student.
Yeah, come on, I was making $50 a week. Living like a king. I was
Raking
living large.
But I know you had catering, you had...
Well, you mean craft services?
Yeah,
No, but I wasn't in that part. I used to go out there and look around, but I was more with the distribution and marketing.
So,
division.
but how'd you get that? I mean, as you know, people always ask me, my first internship ever really was for Elektra Records for the senior vice president, but he was a family friend.
By the way, internships, when I did it, didn't exist.
Okay.
There were no internships.
So you said, I'll work for free, is what you said. For $50 a week.
It's a long story, but the point is I got there,
yes.
And then I came out and I went back to college. I'm an Emerson College graduate, television and cinematography, and I came back and Mother said to me, what are you going to do when you get out of school? And I said, I don't know. And she said, well, you worked for Paramount last summer, why don't you call the president? And I went, why not? So I called the president of the international division. He was based at 1501 Broadway, New York. And I said, hi, and I'm polyglot as well. I speak multiple languages. And he said, what do you want? And I said, well, I'm looking for a job when I get out of school. And he says, you'll come and you'll work for me.
Wow.
You'll come to New York.
That's amazing. First of all, I'm honored that you're here. You really are. You're a living legend. And so thank you so much for coming.
No, listen, I love passing along information to successor generations.
But your story is so good, and it's so important because it also helps people. You weren't afraid to pick up the phone. Most people would have gone, I can't call El Presidente.
I was taught that if you don't ask the question, the answer is an automatic no.
Yes, exactly. So true. I love
What's going to happen to you? They'll say no, so what?
Right, and you move on. That's all.
Move on.
Okay, so now you're working with this guy in New York.
Now I'm working in Paramount Pictures. I was his protege, and he put me in every single department around the company at 1501 Broadway. And then they sent me to Philadelphia to learn domestic, and then I went down to, they were having some issues in Panama, Central America, and he asked me to be his eyes and ears in Central America, so I married my wife Cheryl, there she is offset, and said to her, guess what, we're going to Panama.
I'm sure she was
and
thrilled.
And my mother-in-law said, where's that? You know? And
well, is there a Panama in the United States somewhere?
Panama City, Florida.
Yeah, there you go.
And then we went down there, and I worked through Central America for a year, whatever. That's a long story. I got deported because Paramount screwed up my work papers. But anyway, and then one thing led to another. I worked for Joseph E. Levine.
Wow.
When he did The Graduate and The Lion in Winter, and I
what
worked
was
on
that
about
like?
Fabulous. And I worked on about 30 feature films in marketing and promotion, and really got my chops there. I learned how to promote and market. It was terrific. Like going to Harvard for it.
Did you know, you're 100% right about that, but did you know in The Graduate, when you guys were doing it, did you know it was not only going to be such a success then, but such a success so many years later?
Excuse me, it was such a failure that they couldn't get it into, they barely got it into second string Chicago, and then it took off.
Right, I was going to say.
Then it took off.
So it wasn't, but it wasn't an immediate success.
No.
But it was a success.
Oh, yeah. Huge, but you know, I wasn't there when I didn't do the domestic.
Sure.
When I was at Embassy, I was in charge of everything but the US and Canada for marketing and advertising and publicity and promotion. but I know the stories from domestic.
Sure.
And they basically struggled to get it out. And then these people go in there, they sit in the theaters, and they wouldn't leave between, they just sit there for the next
Between
show.
showings.
Between showings, they would just sit there and wait for the next show and the next show. And then it just, Dustin was great, Hoffman was brilliant in it, Mike Nichols, I mean, it was great. But I worked on like 30 of those between both companies.
But there are very few movies that stand the test of time like that. I mean, you could talk about like National Lampoon's, any of the National Lampoon's early movies, like of course the vacation movies, but also.
But that hit a nerve that went beyond film. I mean, that hit a nerve with this whole generation.
Right.
It was the war. We were graduating college in 1968.
Right.
In that area, and it just.
But I mean, to the graduate, it's so.
We could do an hour on the graduate.
We could, but it's so relevant.
We'll do an hour on the graduate.
It's so relevant today. That's what I'm saying.
That's
okay,
right.
So you go from filmmaking. You're like, okay, I've done this. Now let's go into TV.
And then what happened was, President Reagan became president of the United States, Governor Reagan, and his best friend asked me to come in and be deputy director of the United States Information Agency Television and Film Service. And I went in there and I set up I was a principal architect with the first global satellite system for the U.S. government, linking American embassies to Washington, and just a wonderful situation.
It's like
it was terrific.
This is almost like the Chuck Barris story.
I don't know. I don't know Chuck's story, but I know who Chuck Barris was.
Yeah,
but
of course.
One of these circuitous, but always through the creative, always through.
I love that. Though. That's
it was
so
great,
cool.
one to another, and then one day, we created a game. My wife and I created a game.
I was going to say, how do you go from that into making games and toys and all that?
I was producing, by the way, through producing,
yeah.
I'm very proud of this. I've been to every state in the United States and every state capital.
That's awesome.
Every
that
one.
Is
I produced 30 primetime television documentaries, but like before the Discovery Channel.
Right.
I was doing space shots and open heart surgery with Dr. DeBakey.
Did people must have thought you were out of your mind back then, though? You can't go into an operating room and show open heart surgery. You can't.
Yeah,
do
they spray the equipment. DeBakey picks the heart up and says, "Hey, Richard, look at this. You want to see the heart?"
But I'm serious though. Like, when you went to the companies and said, "This is what we're going to do," didn't they?
They loved it. Everybody wants the publicity. In fact, they said to us with DeBakey, of course, DeBakey loved it.
Yeah.
But then we had to get the patient's permission, and to have your heart operation done. And the patient went, "Wow, does that mean Dr. DeBakey's going to do the operation from top to bottom? Because normally he doesn't open and close."
Of course, yeah.
I said, "He'll do it all."
Yeah.
And they went, "Great, film it."
Wow.
Let me tell you, when you come with cameras at a film crew,
of course,
come on, you're in the business.
Yeah, absolutely.
What doesn't open up?
They're like, hey.
Exactly. Hey.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Whatever you need, we're not going anywhere.
It was. I for 6.5 years, over a period of 6.5 years, I averaged 3 flights a week.
Wow, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
We travel a ton.
Before frequent flyer miles, unfortunately.
That is unfortunate.
But fortunately, before the TSA and all these problems, so we just ran on and off planes.
No, it's amazing now. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And what about? Did you come up with these ideas?
So I came up. So I'm laying on the couch one day, and I'm reading the Washington Post, and there's a story in there about the 120th or 30th, whatever it was, anniversary of Procter and Gamble, and they list all of these. Look, Ma, no cavities, and all their slogans, their properties. And I said to Cheryl, Cheryl, look, Ma, no cavities. What's that? She goes, Crest. And I said, the quicker picker upper. What's that? She goes, Bounty. And I said, there's a game. But here's where I learned my lesson, big lesson. So I said, let's prototype it. So we prototyped the game, and now I go to Milton Bradley. In those days, there were many more companies.
Sure.
I go to all the major companies, whatever. Everybody turns it down. Who cares about advertising? This is what I get back. Not the critical of the game, but the theme. Who cares? Because I knew Trivial Pursuit was so big, but I took a niche, just advertising.
Right.
So, and I called it Ad Infinitum. Nice little prototype package. And then Parker Brothers comes in, and they go, guy comes in, he says, this is the most innovative thing I've seen in games. I'm taking it back to New England. So he takes it back. He calls me a week later. He says, never saw a game die faster. I said, what do you mean? He said, nobody thinks it's going to, nobody cares about advertising. I said, yeah, okay, fine. What am I going to do? So about a year, I never give up.
You just took it like that. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, my motto is never give up, never grow up.
I love it.
So I waited another 6-7 months. There's a game company in Chicago called Catpaw.
Yeah.
Normally I go personally and do these things, but I stick it in a box, I send it out to Catpaw Games. I get a call from the president a few days later. I didn't even know who was on the phone, And he says, Richard, he says, we love the game. And I said, yeah, you could. He said, no, you don't have to sell it. It's sold. We love it. He said, look, if you can get us 2,000 slogans and this and that for the game, for the what we call cardware in the game, he said, and get it to me by the end of June, I'll have it running off the presses. They were printing everything in the U.S. in those days.
Sure.
I'll have it off the press by the end of August, and we'll go to the races. And I said, okay. And I got my wife and my daughter, and we started. My daughter was doing the stuff for the kids, and my wife and I were doing the adult stuff. We piled up all this cardware. We sent it off to Chicago. And then he says, great, thank you. And I said, but you know something? I said, the game's not ready. So what do you mean it's not ready? I said, I'd like to do a couple of tweaks. He says, you have a choice. He says, you can sell 1 million Fords or wait for a Lincoln. And I said, let's sell 1 million Fords. And the company went on to sell over 1 million copies of the game.
That's unbelievable.
And Parker Brothers, when they saw it sailing,
Yeah.
came back and asked to buy the game from Catco Games in Chicago.
Wow.
And Catco said no.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
So
they
that
knew
was
what
our
they had.
first, that was huge.
That's amazing, and to have a success right out of the gate,
Yeah,
even though
it's
you,
just-
you were told no a lot. And I love the
doesn't
fact
matter.
that you just keep moving on.
Show me a fatal flaw and
Yeah.
I'll listen. But say no.
Right.
No to me translates to not now.
Right. Well, and it translates to the person doesn't know what they're talking about.
Well, maybe they do,
right.
but it doesn't. Unless you can show me something fatal,
Well, that's
why
what
am
I'm
I going to
saying.
listen to you?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
That's great. All right, so what do we have here? You brought some toys to
So
show us.
now.
And I love that you guys do it as a family. You kind of all
yeah, of
consult
course, of
together and
course.
work on it.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's great.
I
It's
love
great.
that.
It's great. So this is our new Catpaw,
Yeah.
and this is with a company called Wicked Cool Toys, and this has. Where's your mic? Where's your mic?
It's right here. I got it. I hear it. Yep.
And then, wait.
Wow.
So this was moving along very, very nicely. We've been on 3 segments of the Today Show last year. Everything was going great, and that's around December time. And then David Letterman put it on. Where's the camera?
Well, we got one
Camera's
right there, the center
okay.
camera. Let's look at the
you
center
want,
camera.
If you want to see what went on the David Letterman show, go to Google, put in David Letterman, Catpaw, and Anna Kendrick, who's the actress, and watch what went on. And all of a sudden, sales just soared, and it's going to be huge this year. It'll be huge this year.
Anna
You don't want this
Kendrick.
for your audience here.
We love it.
Yeah, okay.
So that's
But
amazing.
anyway, so what I want you to do is
Yep.
go to #Catpaw.
Okay.
These are $9.99. They're going to be at Walgreens. They're on Amazon. They're at Toys R Us. They're at Kmart. $9.99.
How do you come up with this?
This took Cheryl. She's off camera. How many years did I sit with this idea?
15 years?
15 years. I was sitting with a back scratcher that looked like a cat paw, thinking I would do something one day.
Yeah.
And then it hit me. I need electronics in it. So I called one of my partners. I have a close group of associates.
Sure.
We all have different skills.
Yep.
And I said, Bob, throw electronics into this thing. And the rest is history.
Wow.
The president of the company came to visit. I showed it to him. We were
And
off
it's
to
just,
the
I
races.
mean, it seems like it's just hours of fun. And also like, kind
you
of,
should see the videos people are putting up.
you could just, have fun with people.
Oh, you can have
You could even, I could pet you, right?
absolutely. My head could look like yours if you do that a couple more times. I'm close.
You don't realize how hard it is to work like
Tell me
to
about
get it
it.
like this.
Tell
it's
me
a lot of
about it.
work.
So
Your
anyway-
hair looks
Yeah,
good. I wish
yeah.
I could rock that one.
Yeah. But this is the cat paw.
Yeah, I love it.
This
the
is
cat
the cat paw, and
Okay.
and it got on Letterman, and it's
and then you
it's
can
going to
get
be in all the
frisky
Walgreens.
later with it. If you want to have a frisky cat.
Oh,
With-
by the way, cat owners love this.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
for
you can play with a
$9.99,
cat.
it's an impulse
Could you
novelty.
imagine though? You could just play with a cat for hours.
The cats
You'd
love
like
it.
sit behind the door
The
and
cats love it.
"Here,
The
kitty,
cats
kitty."
love it.
Yeah.
So anyway,
All right,
another thing I have coming up
Yeah.
this year. So we created and patented.
I got the segment playing, by the way.
Oh, you do? You see Anna?
I got Letterman. He's fooling around. He's not sure what to make of it yet. I'll tell everybody what happens.
You'll tell them what happens.
but they gotta
afterwards.
Google it,
They
too,
got to
but yeah.
Google it too. So anyway, we have an item called. Put my password in here. I'm not sure if you can zoom in on this, guys. Can you do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so this is the first self-waving American flag. It goes on TV tomorrow. I'm going to hit it. Ready?
Oh, I know. We've got somebody in the chat room named Digital Phil. He's going to want that
Hang on,
for
hang on.
sure. He's a big patriot.
Look at this. You may not want to go through the whole thing, but it's got a patented mechanism in it. It plays 2 patriotic songs, And it's going on as an as seen on TV item
Awesome.
from a company called Blue Banana. And you gotta get to the end. And you're the first. Actually, you're beating network television on this thing, guys.
I love it. You know what I love about it?
You are beating network television. Can you believe
Richard,
that?
I'm
This
a
is
huge
scoop.
patriot.
It's a scoop. So am I.
So I love it. I think it's really awesome. And I know, like I said, Digital Phil's watching right now. He is a huge patriot from Texas.
By the way, I call
and he's-
myself a
yeah.
spread eaglist.
Okay.
I love the United States. I've been to all 50 states. I told you.
That's amazing.
I worked for the government for a while. I think
Yeah.
everybody should work for the government for a while. Put in your time, whether it's military or not. It's
Maybe
good to serve.
we'd have some more efficiencies. If
It's
we
good
did
to
that.
serve.
Yes.
Don't get
it
me
definitely
going.
is. It definitely is.
Anyway,
by the
so
way.
that's
Yes.
that.
I thank every troop I see. When I travel, I see troops in every airport, and I just walk up. You ask these guys, they don't know what I'm doing. I just walk out. We're in the middle of a
Absolutely.
conversation. I walk over here 10 feet. I just go, thank you,
They
and I
are
walk away.
the
I don't want
best.
to bother them.
And I'll tell you,
They are.
I've lived in Panama, I've lived in Italy, I've lived in France, and I've lived in Spain, and I've been to like 130 countries. And people say to me, "Where would you like to live?" There's nothing like this country, but that's me.
I agree with you. And I've traveled a lot. I love the United States.
Where would
of
you
America.
get this kind of innovation? I
Where
mean,
would you?
where in the world would you be able to do a business like yours
Yes.
and a business like mine?
Never.
Never wouldn't happen
Yeah.
anywhere.
My grandfather was in World War II, Jerry, and he told me when I was a kid, he said, I've been all around the world. There's no place like the United States.
Nothing.
And I went on a trip touring the United States when I was 15.
Yeah.
And right before I left,
Yeah.
he said to me, this is the most beautiful country. You'll never see anything like it. And take it all in.
Nothing like it in the world.
Absolutely.
Nothing like it in the world because it rewards entrepreneurism.
Yeah.
We're taught entrepreneurs in this country. You say to the Chinese, come up with an idea. They're not taught to stare at a blank sheet of paper.
Yeah.
They can do things better, maybe sometimes faster, but
Right.
Okay.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree 100%. We can talk about that
I got
forever.
one more.
I'm
I got
watching,
one more.
So Anna Kendrick, this is very funny. I don't
Oh,
want to give it away.
no, don't give it
She's
away.
on, but you got to see this. Let's just say she has a fear of cats. And that's all I'm saying.
that's you're going to say.
That's
Anna
all I'm gonna
Kendrick
say.
will put
and,
you, yeah.
And we'll leave it at that, and you should Google it. It's a great clip. It's very funny.
So I don't know if you have time,
okay.
but this is
Yeah,
our last.
let's do it.
Okay, so this is a game called Dirty Words,
I love that. I
right?
mean, does it get better
comes
than
in a
this?
plain brown wrapper.
You know, people think it's funny. I have friends.
There's no dirty words in it, by the way.
Oh, there aren't.
No. It's
Okay.
how you put it together.
So tell me about it.
So it's basically a dice game.
Yeah.
And it has words on it like excited, wet, push, pull, but whatever, you can just imagine.
Sure, I'm
That
already,
independ-
my brain is
that-
racing,
that
right in the gutter.
It's a great party game,
Yeah.
adult party game. Independently, they don't mean anything.
Right.
But how you put them together makes for a lot of laughs.
I don't know if you heard. That's the like.
I love that.
Yeah.
Anyway, this game was done many years ago, like 40 years ago, by a friend of mine. Before internet, before anything, he sold 1 million copies of it
Wow.
from a card table up at Columbus Circle here when it used to be just department stores.
Sure.
And I called him up about a year ago, and I said, "Hey Scott, let's bring this thing back. Let's update the game. Let's update the words, and we'll license it." And he said, "Great, let's do it." So we got together, we worked on it. I called Bob Moog, the president of University Games. The rest is history, and they did a brilliant job.
I love it.
Absolutely brilliant
And
job.
so you're now into licensing too. Is that?
Well,
that's
no,
an
we
interesting
license all
aspect?
our products.
But I
would
mean,
never,
you're into licensing as far as like finding other toys. You didn't.
No,
you didn't create
he's like this with me. I don't go
Okay.
running around looking for toys.
Got you.
No, I don't look for
Licensing
anything.
is hard though. It's hard to get people to license your toy, right?
It's very difficult. And more today than it was then because there are fewer companies, fewer retailers,
I love it.
fewer manufacturers. And I've written books on. I've got a book called The Toy and Game Inventor's Handbook on Amazon as an ebook, and I wrote it with a former senior vice president of Hasbro, Mr. Outside, Mr. Inside, and anybody who's interested. It's a $9.99 book. It's a great book.
It's great.
It's a great book, and it's current.
It's very
it's the
informative.
third edition.
All right, so you're very much about giving back and being informative. So what
Right.
is the best piece of advice you could give to a young person who's either an inventor or wants to be an inventor or wants to get involved in the toy industry?
Well, I told you earlier, never give up, never grow up. It's short, sweet, but you just can't. You've got to keep going and going and go. We're in a fashion industry. Never get caught with your trends down. Do your homework. You got to do your homework, and and make connections. Let me tell you, business is about relationships. It's not about transactions. Meet people, get relationships going, and don't worry. You're selling yourself before you sell your product. Don't worry about walking in with this. This might, 100 of these could be turned down, but I want the red carpet there when I come back. I want the welcome mat. I want to be able to get back into the company.
Well, I think you bring up so many interesting points. We were talking to some people before about how it really is about the relationships.
It's all relationships.
And I'm such a believer in FaceTime and not and even using the phone and not just emailing.
Pick up the phone.
I love the phone.
Is
that not the best means of communication?
Take a meeting.
Yes.
Forget the emails, the texting. You can't. It comes to a point where you have to build credibility.
Yes.
You need credibility with your audience. I mean, you've got it, but I mean, you got to build that. You got to build that trust.
Absolutely.
And you get a trust going between you and the manufacturers, and you can make deals on handshakes.
I love it. I love it. Great advice. Richard, the legendary Richard Levy, thank you so much for giving us a few minutes.
Yeah.
Films, immortality. TV gives you longevity and just such a bounce, and then what does toys give you? Fun.
And just remember, nothing rewards innovation better than this country.
Yes, I love it, and I love innovation. We talk about it all the time. What a great inspired story. Thank you for coming on and sharing that, inspiring our audience.
Thank you.
You
You're
so
great.
much. I'm Michael Artis. We'll be back with a whole lot more on your live official Toy Fair 2015 coverage with the Toy Industry Association from the Jacob K. Javits Center in New York City on BeTerrific. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.